Generation 2 of Pokemon is cherished and beloved by many, from the masterfully crafted level curve to the Johto region, to the Pokemon designs. Gen 2 is considered to be the pinnacle of the franchise. Okay, but seriously, it's not that bad. Truth be told, the Johto region and Pokédex are actually my favorite in the entire series. I adore these games with all their flaws and charm, so I decided to put my favorites to the test and prove their might. Sacred Gold is a ROM hack of Heart Gold made by Drayano. Many Pokemon receive changes to typing, stats, and move pools, and trainers are made much more difficult with revamped, handcrafted teams. I ran a Hardcore Nuzlocke challenge of this game, allowing only Gen 2 Pokemon for my encounters. Some Gen 2 Pokemon did receive evolutions in later games, so I allowed those evolutions as well. I ran this challenge using standard Hardcore Nuzlocke rules, which you can see on the screen now and in the description below. In addition, I added some extra rules to spice things up. I didn't allow any stat boosting moves, and I banned all weather, moves, and abilities. Before we jump in, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next. I start the journey in Newbark Town taking Totodile as my starter. While Cyndaquil was actually my favorite Johto starter and it's typically the best, Feraligatr gets intimidated in this game. With Gyarados not being available in my rule set, I figured Feraligatr could fill a similar niche as a bulky water intimidate user. A Walmart Gyarados, if you will. Cynthia gifts an Eevee next, and this usually ends up being an Umbreon or a Glaceon in a standard run of this game. I decide to actually go for Espeon though, since this is the only fast and hard-hitting Psychic type easily available with Gen 2 only encounters. I make my way towards Violet City, picking up the numerous encounters, with Sentret being the most notable. What makes it so special? You get access to Furret for the first gym, and our long furry friend comes with all 3 elemental punches and very solid stats. This Mon is busted for the early game. The first gym ends up being pretty anticlimactic, and in a spectacular showcase of Furret's abilities, Falkner gets absolutely railed by just this one single Pokemon. It's a full sweep of one-hitter quitters all the way up to the final Pokemon. Pidgeotto is the only opposition to take more than a single hit, but it's all breezy with not a single drop of sweat from me and the squad. Zephyr badge secured. Big shout out to Furret. With a shiny first badge in my pocket, I pick up the few encounters leading up to Bugsy, taking a guaranteed Rhyhorn to trade for a Gligar in Azalea. The Team Rocket grunts and Slowpoke well get put on a vegan diet as I shut down their Slowpoke tail sales. And with that, it's time to work our way through the second gym and take on Bugsy for Batch 2. I lead with Steelix and get an easy kill with Rock Throw as Butterfree sets up Rain Dance to weaken any fire coverage. Giga Chad Beetle is up next, and expecting a fighting move, I swap into Gligar to wall the attack and clap back with Aerial Ace. In classic Moxie Throw fashion, I completely forget that my traded Gligar won't obey me yet. Things get a little awkward, but I get Gligar to take down the Heracross and Beedrill before sending it into timeout. Steelix completely walls Yanma, getting an easy KO, and I bring Gligar back in on Pinsir, hoping to squeeze one more kill out of it. But it has other plans, and I have to go back into Steelix to finish the job. This positions me perfectly though for the final Mon and Ace, Scyther. Steelix eats several hits with ease, and a couple rock throws end the Scyther's career, scoring me badge number 2 from Bugsy. Fresh out of Bugsy's gym with a new badge, I'm ambushed and thrown into the first real rival battle. But this one is honestly a piece of cake. Croconaw Ice Fangs Murkrow down, Crobat annihilates Bayleaf, Espeon wins the Battle of Minds against Kadabra, and even chains another kill off Ghastly with a Bite finisher. The next few encounters make for some game changers though, with Volt Absorb Chinchou and a Scyther from the National Park. These will come in handy quite often later on in the run. Next up in my gym conquest is none other than the infamous owner of a certain Demon Mommy Milker Pokemon, and she has a much more troublesome roster in comparison to Vanilla Heart Gold. I start with a Metal Claw to fish for an attack boost chance, and I actually get it. I intend to keep fishing, but Lickitung disables Metal Claw, and I finish with a Wing Attack. Lopunny comes in next, and I cycle between Wing Attacks and Roosts waiting for Metal Claw to come back online. After tanking and healing off several jump kicks, the Metal Claw is back in action as the bunny goes down. The big boss Bovine takes the stage next and immediately gets a Body Slam Paralyze. Caesar casts its rod to go fishing yet again for Metal Claw attack boosts, rotating with Roosts and making pretty easy work of one of the most iconic threats in any Pokemon game. Down goes Miltank. Clefable takes forever to kill due to some bad paralysis luck, but Caesar's rampage continues as it runs through this and Wigglytuff. Stantler is Whitney's final Pokemon here, and it drops Scizor's attack with Intimidate, but we net out at neutral thanks to the boost from Metal Claw earlier. With one last Metal Claw into Roost rinse and repeat cycle, my mighty Steel Bug triumphs, completely soloing Whitney and getting badge number 3. Shortly after the Scizor solo sweep, we meet a Wiggly Tree and pick up 2 encounters on the way to Ecruteak City. And from there, we pretty much jump right into Gym 3. Sudowoodo leads the charge with several feint attacks, baiting out one of Morty's Hyper Potions and beating Duskull. Gengar comes in seeing either Shadow Ball or Hypnosis, so I switch into Insomnia Noctowl for free. From here, I pivot between Noctowl and Gligar until Spooky Boy's Thunderbolts and Shadow Balls are depleted. The idea here is to get an easy switch in the Giga Drain with Ariados and comfortably Sucker Punch twice to kill. Unfortunately, in standard Moxie fashion, I get my count wrong and Gengar still has a Shadow Ball which almost claims my Spider's life. Never punish though, baby, and Ariados gets the job done. Knowing Misdreavus sees a kill, I bring Fake Wood out to soak a hit and ideally bait out a Will-O-Wisp that I can Lumberry off. Sudowoodo dodges a critical hit and kills Missy, paving the way for Noctowl to easily change Shuppet into Haunter, leaving only Sableye for the finale. I rinse and repeat Hypnosis and Air Cutters, and after a steady battle of attrition, I walk out of Gym 4 with yet another badge. After taking down Morty, I head over to Olivine City, and with just a short surfing trip to Cianwood Gym, I pick up a handful of encounters and get ready to fight the 5th gym leader, Chuck. After being a glorified box warmer for most of the run, Espeon starts off strong with a quick Psybeam snipe to one-shot Primeape. The Breloom with Spore that comes in next was a notable threat on paper, but Crobat's typing completely walls the Grass Raptor. I do get an unfortunate 4-turn sleep, but one wing attack annihilates Breloom after waking up from nap time. Poliwrath comes out, and I pivot Feraligatr into Slowking to drop its attack and make Focus Punch a little less scary. After a slow back and forth with even more nap time, Slowking outlasts Poliwrath to win the matchup. With several fully healthy options still in the back, I keep Slowking in against Hitmonchan and risk a few Ice Punch freezes before killing with Zen Headbutt. The incoming Hariyama in theory should be Slowking food, but the king actually gets a well-deserved break and I pivot Feraligatr into Crobat. Even critical hit cross chops present no threat thanks to Crobat's typing, and 2 wing attacks send Sumo back to the buffet line. Yet another Gator pivot gets Espeon safely in on Hitmonlee, and I Psybeam, narrowly missing the kill. Not killing actually ends up working to my advantage as Chuck burns through all of his Hyper Potions, and then it's Hitmon peace out for a Gym 5 dub. The next split is one of the toughest sequences in the entire game. The Team Rocket Safari Zone Expedition is packed with tag battles which pair you with an AI partner. Unfortunately, your partner isn't always nice on it, and their decision making is often questionable and unpredictable. The final boss tag battle at the end, however, is by far the scariest. And if my partner Marley's skills are as clean as his fit, it should be a breeze, right? Scizor bullet punches a hole into Zangoose, who then retaliates by one-shotting Marley's Absol. Scyther wastes a turn and bug bites Scizor for baby damage. Marley brings in Ursaring and Scyther starts setting up double team as Scizor finishes off Zangoose. Scyther continues to be useless, so I ignore it for now. Knowing Houndoom will see a kill on Scizor, I swap out to Feraligatr to eat it and clap back with 2 Surfs, taking out both Scyther and Houndoom in the process. Mawile and Gyarados come out together, getting off a potent double Intimidate. I did my homework though, so I send out Gliscor, who walls both of their sets and has Fire Fang and Thunder Fang for Mawile and Gyarados respectively. They're both taken out with ease, and their final Pokemon, Granbull, is immediately vaporized by a well-placed Aura Sphere from Lucario. Jasmine is notorious for being a pushover in the base games, and honestly, not much has changed here. To start off, Quagsire tanks an easy Zen Headbutt and deletes Metang with Earthquake. Next, Fortress gets hopelessly walled by Steelix and blows up on my Metal Snake after getting chunked and burnt by Fire Fang. Jasmine sends out her own Steelix, and Gliscor gets in for free on an Earthquake. I anticipated winning the 1v1, but Steelix actually drops Gliscor to -4 defense with 2 Screeches before I see a kill, so I switch into Quagsire expecting an Iron Tail, but it's oops all Screeches, -2 defense again. I risk a crit and Quagsire gets the kill after a big hold. Skarmory gets walled by Lantern and I chip it into kill range before swapping into Feraligatr to then bait an electric move from the incoming Magneton to get a free heal to full with Lantern's Volt Absorb ability. The rest of the battle is Lantern Surf Simulator, taking Magneton and chipping Bronzong down, before Gliscor lands the final killing blow into victory for a clean badge 6. Next, I snag a Girafarig and head to the Team Rocket hideout over in Mahogany Town. As if we didn't see enough tag battle action at the Safari Zone, we're paired with Lance to fight Executive Ariana and her secretary. Off rip, I already lead with the wrong Mon and have to burn a turn switching to Girafarig. Never punished though, and I slam Arbok with Psychic while Dragonair fires off Dragon Pulses all over the place. Knowing Honchkrow sees a kill on either of us, I swap in Gliscor to tank any hits. Lance sends an Aerodactyl as Dragonair perishes, and the oversized Crow gets Stone Edged, while Gliscor Thunderfangs Hypno for a bit of damage. Lance proves to be a goated tag battle partner as Aerodactyl wreaks havoc, killing off Hypno and Vileplume. From here, Gliscor and Aerodactyl comfortably 2v1 Magnezone and Muck to send Ariana packing and opening the way for me to challenge Pryce. In Gym 7, we start things off with a nice Choice Band Scizor clinic, ripping through Abomasnow, Glalie, and Mamoswine with just Bullet Punch. Wanting to conserve Scizor's health for later, I switch into Feraligatr as Dewgong comes in. In Sacred Gold, Strength was changed to a Rock-type move, so the big Gator shrugs off Surfs and spams Strength until Dewgong goes down. Scizor pops back in to get a quick Bullet Punch kill on Frostlass and bait out the final Pokemon, Lapras. Lantern does get Parasong trapped by Whirlpool, and this is normally a really scary situation. But I know Lantern's good to outspeed and kill Lapras before the timer runs out. And that's batch 7. Before continuing on, I realize I missed a handful of encounters, so I make a quick detour to pick those up before flying over to Goldenrod for what I consider to be the toughest part of the game outside of the Elite Four. Team Rocket is making a last stand and is taking over the radio tower. And it's going to take a scrappy squad of Gen 2 Pokemon to save Johto's food supply from being replaced with Slowpoke Tails. Let's start things off with a light warm-up against Executive Petrel. The fight ends up very hyper-offensive and goes pretty quickly, with numerous one-hitter quitters. Raticate gets yeeted by Heracross. Mismagius slams Hypno with a Shadow Ball. Donphan earthquakes Skuntank. Yanmega eats a Power Whip and Signal Beams Tangrowth. Donphan then pivots into Toxicroak's Stone Edge to get Espeon in safely for a Psybeam into another Psybeam to melt Weezing and claim victory over this pathetic excuse for a Rocket exec. I then book it to the Goldenrod Underground to get a card key and run into a familiar face. It's been a bit since we saw a rival, and he's packing some new toys. Scizor starts the battle by firing off 2 Bullet Punches to the beak into Honchkrow, baiting out Magmar. Slowking switches into Soak a Flamethrower with ease, and after barely missing a one-hit KO range and getting burnt by Will-O-Wisp, it lands the killing blow. Thanks to Slowking's impressive special bulk, Meganium comes in and Swords Dances to fish for killing rolls since it doesn't see him. Yanmega comes in to easily shred this with Signal Beam. Lantern follows up into Kingdra to wall and ball out on the Seaking for an easy Thunderbolt 2-tap. I make a poor choice and get a bit too antsy, staying in against Gengar and risking a crit in exchange for a pretty frail Thunderbolt into the Ghost. I pivot into Porygon 2 to get some chip damage and swap over to Mismagius after getting slept. We know his Shadow Ball is never coming out here, and Mismagius swaps into a Thunder. After getting paralyzed, Mismagius can no longer outspeed and kill Gengar, so I go back into Porygon 2 and take advantage of its bulk to sit comfortably until it wakes up and finishes off Gengar. Finally, Alakazam fires off a Psychic, and I swap into Scizor to tank it and end the rival fight with a Bullet Punch. And now comes the hardest part of the Radio Tower takeover. We have a back-to-back fight with no breaks against Executive Archer and Giovanni. I lead Scizor against Archer's Zangoose, knowing Bullet Punch will always leave it on death's door and hopefully bait out a potion to get it out of the way. This goes exactly as planned, and after the close combat defense drop, Scizor one-shots Zangoose and baits out Houndoom. I send in Mantine to comfortably soak up the incoming Fire Blast with its impressive special defense. Mantine also eats up a Solar Beam and puts the Devil Dog down with 2 Surfs. Archer's Machamp wants Stone Edge next, and I know this attack is prone to missing, so I take a risk sending in Girafarig in exchange for a clean one-hit KO. Heracross swaps in to tank a Crunch from the incoming Drapion and retaliates with a close combat. This does way less damage than anticipated and activates Drapion Citrus Berry, so I decide to switch over into Quagsire to easily take a Cross Poison and beat Drapion with Earthquake. Things do get really scary as Archer Scizor starts setting up Swords Dance, and despite Gliscor completely walling it, plus attack from a Scizor is no joke. The Metal Monstrosity even tanks a Fire Fang, but a second Fire Fang does do the trick, and Scizor never actually gets off any damage. Archer's Gyarados takes a final stand, but my worn down Girafarig holds strong just one more time and slays the serpent with a thunderbolt to clear the way for the finale with big rocket boss man Giovanni. The fight with Giovanni starts with a major deja vu moment from the previous battle, as we once again see Caesar chunk the lead Pokemon into potion range and then finish it off with yet another bullet punch. Nidoking's Earthquake is then nullified by Gliscor's typing as it pivots into Girafarig to once again hold the line against an Ice Beam and crush Nidoking with Psychic. I switch Heracross in thinking I have an easy matchup, but my Beetle almost dies to a double edge from Kangaskhan, narrowly dodging a crit, but then folding the Marsupial with close combat. I've already risked Girafarig and Heracross, and we're only halfway through this fight. To continue the theme of heavy hitters, Giovanni's Tauros attempts to finish off Heracross with a Stone Edge. Quagsire eats it up and pivots into Caesar for an easy wall and 1v1. Next, Rhyperior goes for Earthquake, giving Mantine a free switch in to bring in the High Tide and surf Rhyperior into the depths. Mantine stays in for the final battle against Nidoqueen, getting toxic and shaking off Ice Beams while clapping back with Surf until it's all over. And with that, the day is saved and Team Rocket is officially disbanded. I pick up a Skiploom on the way to the ice path and slip and slide my way through the cave, picking up a very important Pillow-Swine encounter. I then pick up a Skarmory just below Blackthorn and play a quick round of the Flora's Lava in the 8th gym. This is it, folks. The final battle standing between me and the Elite Four. Porygon Z makes for a devastating lead, ripping and tearing through Claire's team with Choice Specs boosted Ice Beams and Thunderbolts. Dragonair into Gyarados, into the second Dragonair, into Salamence. It all goes really quickly. My Virtual Duck dodges crit risk number 1 from Salamence's Draco Meteor, and claims 2 souls to bring it down to Claire's ace and final Pokemon, Kingdra. The next sequence is probably one of the riskiest plays I've ever attempted in a Nuzlocke. Knowing Porygon 2 is only dead to a crit Hydro Pump, which is an inaccurate move, I chance it and successfully get up a Trick Room. Since Porygon Z is dead to any move here, it's essentially a 1 in 4 chance for Mamoswine to switch into a safe move. The Big Pig now outspeeds in Trick Room and fires off a massive Earthquake. Not wanting to risk Mamoswine any further, I switch in my own Kingdra into a Hydro Pump miss, eat a Dragon Pulse, and finish off Claire's Kingdra. I just barely dodged crit there. But that's 8 badges secured, and it's time to head to the Pokemon League. As I head to Victory Road, I pick up a Houndour just outside of Tojo Falls and make my way through Victory Road without any issues. My rival jumps me right at the exit to test me one final time before the Elite Four. He seems changed this time, and I suspect a tough battle might be coming. Electivire sets the tone with an easy Thunderbolt one-hitter on Honchkrow and baits an Alakazam for Psychic. So far so good. Houndoom gets a test drive in its first battle. It switches in for free and demolishes Alakazam with a single Dark Pulse. We see some familiar Kingdra on Kingdra action, and I make a bad assumption that my Kingdra's faster and risk a crit unnecessarily. But hey, every Pokemon has the ability Battle Armor if you believe hard enough. Kingdra holds and nets a nice 2-0 record against enemy Kingdras. Gengar's up next, seeing a random killing move into my Kingdra, so I swap in Houndoom to claim yet another soul. Meganium starts setting up Swords Dances, and Crobat easily kills it with 2 Cross Poisons. I expected it to die to 1 Cross Poison, so kudos to the most underrated Johto starter for the impressive hold. Lantern then comes in on a Will-O-Wisp from Magmortar for what should be a pretty easy matchup. It does end up coming down to the wire though, and Lantern barely clutches it out for one final victory against our rival, and with that, we're headed to the Elite Four. The Elite Four is the apex of any Pokemon Hardcore Nuzlocke run. Being limited to only Gen 2 Pokemon gave me a run for my money in crafting a winning team, but I managed to put together a strong roster to take on the challenge with confidence. The first member, Will, specializes in strong Psychic types. Houndoom has the firepower though to serve as a strong lead, and Choice Scarf gives it a needed edge in speed. Houndoom crashes the gates and leads the charge with a flamethrower into Jinx. That's first blood. Mismagius takes advantage of its levitate ability, swapping into Lunatone's Earth Power with no penalty. From here, Mismagius runs through the entire team, one-tapping Lunatone into Solrock, 2-hit KOing Gardevoir, and finally dismantling Slowbro and Xatu with 1 Shadow Ball each. That's just 2 of my Johto Pokemon taking 6 on an Elite Four battle. You're actually able to pick the order you fight the rest of the Elite Four, but I decided to stick with the classic lineup from OG Gold and Silver. Enter Koga, the master of poisons and ninja stuff. Hot off of a dominating victory, Choice Specs Mismagius Shadow Balls Venomoth, and baits out Toxicroak. Expecting a Sucker Punch, I swap in the Gliscor, but it instead Poison Jabs, putting me in an even better position than anticipated. That's an easy one-tap with Earthquake. Tentacruel then Swords Dances and gives Gliscor more free food. Koga's Wheezing lets a Fire Blast rip, and Espeon tanks it with its respectable Special Bulk, and clears Wheezing out with a Psychic. Choice Scarf also allows Espeon to outspeed the incoming Crobat, which is no easy feat, and the bat falls to yet another Psychic. Finally, Muck and Gliscor have a bit of a back and forth, but Gliscor's typing hard walls Muck and crushes it. That's 2 of 4 members without breaking a sweat. Bruno comes packing a sturdy team of powerful fighting types. So Miss Magius's ghost typing will prove very useful here. Compared to the previous 2 sweeps, we start off a little sweaty. Since Hitmontop has Sucker Punch, I pivot back and forth between Miss Magius and Houndoom. Sucker Punches into Houndoom just fail, and Houndoom can bait either counter or high jump kick. A high jump kick into Miss Magius means Hitmontop will miss and take 50% damage from crashing. So I can just keep pivoting until it either runs out of Sucker Punches or kills itself from high jump kick. Hitmontop does indeed crash and burn, baiting Lucario into Miss Magius for a Dark Pulse. Houndoom tanks it easily and serves up some seared Lucario. Hitmonlee can't do much to Gliscor, so I just alternate between Aerial Aces and Protect for leftovers healing until Hitmonlee perishes. The Hariyama matchup plays out almost identically with the Aerial Ace Protect rotations. Hitmonchan then really wants an Ice Punch on Gliscor, so I pivot through Houndoom to bait a high jump kick into Miss Magius, setting it up for a kill with Shadow Ball. Last in line is Machamp, and Gliscor takes him to the cleaners for another Aerial Ace Protect spin cycle into victory. That's 3 down, 1 more to go, plus the champion. The final Elite Four member, Karen, gave me the most trouble in my planning, but one dubious Cyber Duck is the perfect candidate to set the pace. Choice Specs Porygon absolutely shreds through Mightyena, Honchkrow, and Spiritomb with no issues. I fire off 1 more Thunderbolt into Umbreon, then switch into Gliscor to wall the Umbreon and prepare for a potential stall fest if the Double Team Evasion boost RNG goes poorly for me. Karen uses her full restore, and we steer off the original plan as Gliscor can't outlast Umbreon through the toxic damage buildup. Mamoswine comes in to finish Umbreon and deal with Houndoom. While Mamoswine does play a big role in the next fight, I know I have a fallback plan in the back if I lose the big pig here. So I go for the high risk, high reward, and Houndoom misses Heat Wave and falls to an Earthquake. That's the Elite Four. And now, the only obstacle to the Hall of Fame room is Champion Lance and his dragons. Making it all the way to Lance with my full 6 means I can stick with my original plan going into the Elite Four. Porygon starts off strong again and Thunderbolts Gyarados into the ground, bringing out Charizard. Gliscor can take a few hits here, so I hard switch into position for a kill. Strength, again, has been changed into a Rock-type move in Sacred Gold, so Charizard's 4 times weakness is exploited here, and the Lizard never gets any attacks off. Now things are set to get really high octane, and I put all my chips on the table, bringing Mamoswine into a Blizzard from Dragonite. Mamoswine needs to land 3 Ice Fangs in a row, or it dies. Ice Fang is 95% accurate, so while the odds are in my favor, a single miss makes this battle much harder. Count with me. First Ice Fang, Dragonite goes down. Second Ice Fang, Garchomp falls. Third Ice Fang, the second Dragonite dies. Now it's just me and Aerodactyl. I swap into Gliscor to have the best chance of holding strong, and I start firing off strengths. In a desperate attempt to steer, Lance uses all 3 of his Hyper Potions, but it just isn't enough. Gliscor hits 1 last strength, and Champion Lance is defeated. I would be leaving out one of the most iconic battles in the entire series if I logged my team into the Hall of Fame and called it there. Kanto, and a whole new set of 8 more badges awaits, with a final fight against a familiar face waiting at the end. Much like the unmodified Vanilla Heart Gold game, Kanto is generally a quick and uneventful time, with easy gym leader battles and light content pieces. It's a bit of a snooze fest aside from nostalgia. Let's fast forward to the real grand finale to push my Gen 2 Pokemon to the absolute limit. Red, the protagonist of the Generation 1 games, waits atop Mount Silver, patiently awaiting a worthy adversary. What's a more fitting conclusion to the story than a Gen 1 versus Gen 2 Pokemon showdown? Old versus new. Hail is a permanent mainstay in this fight, and I had no way to get rid of it due to my rule set, so I did have to plan around it. Choice Scarf Mamoswine outspeeds Red's iconic Pikachu and one-hit KOs with Earthquake. Blastoise wants a Hydro Pump next. but it misses my incoming Lantern. After shrugging off a Signal Beam, the Lantern takes down the Behemoth Turtle with a timely Thunderbolt critical hit. Venusaur lashes out with a Power Whip, which Yanmega easily quad resists. Venusaur can't do much to Yanmega besides try to Sleep Powder it, but I get an Air/Flinch and Double Tap before Venusaur can retaliate. Knowing Charizard sees multiple killing moves next, I switch out to Slowking, who can tank the Lizard's entire arsenal with ease. Slowking catches an unlucky Air/Crit, leaving it on death's door as it claps back with a Power Gem to net the kill. The next tick of hail damage leaves Slowking with exactly 1 HP, and I'm able to switch off a Snorlax safely to get Heracross in. One Choice Banded Close Combat from the Hercules Beetle topples the Sleeping Giant, and Espeon is Red's only remaining Pokemon. Houndoom gets a free switch into Psychic, and the helpless Espeon sets up a desperate Reflect to no avail. I click one final move, as Houndoom lets a Choice Specs Dark Pulse rip, and Espeon goes down, leaving Red speechless. And that is my Hardcore Nuzlocke of Sacred Gold on attempt 1 with 0 deaths. My journey comes to an end here, and I can sleep easy knowing I proved my point about Generation 2 Pokemon. Hopefully I was able to inspire some of you to give the Gen 2 Pokedex another look. Who knows? Maybe you'll find a new favorite. Thanks so much everyone for watching, and please remember to smash that subscribe button to catch more videos like this. Like and leave a comment below about your favorite or least favorite Gen 2 Pokemon.